It was some small town along the way. I don't remember the name. I never do. Mostly because I don't care. I won't come back that way. No use in remembering places you don't come back to. It never does any good, remembering. I usually go into a store, pick up what I need and get on. Away from people, away from everything. But memories are a tricky thing. They come when it's least convenient, and they come without warning, making you do stupid things. When them bluebellies came around the corner, I couldn't just leave. Killing those bastards is what I devoted myself to ever since the war. Their arrogant bearing let my hand twitch in anticipation. It was a group of 6. I could have taken them, but a civilian or 2 might have gotten a bullet as well in the chaos of the struggle. Most of them were my people, their husbands and sons dead in shallow graves. No, I owed them and my family to take them out without any collateral damage if possible. I ducked away into a shadowy corner to escape notice. I hadn't seen any wanted posters, but you can never be sure. It's a disordered time, and like on the battlefield, tides could turn in the blink of an eye. I could feel my hatred rise. It demanded me to act right now. Memories of cannon and smoke flickered at the border of my consciousness. Cries of battle, dead men, streams of blood. It all raged like a storm, encircling the calm eye where I still saw my home turned to ashes. I pushed it back into the dark and gritted my teeth. I had to go to my horse first and get rid of the goods I'd bought. My grey stallion was standing close to the bar, but the Yankees had just entered. They wouldn't be back that soon. A plan of procedure already formed in my mind when I gave my companion some grain. Got something to do first, old friend. I waited till sundown. The bluebellies did their duty well, drinking and whoring around all day. Lincoln would be proud. In the distance I saw storm clouds steadily creeping closer. It would be an awful next ride. From where I stood I could perfectly well see the bed doors of the saloon, as well as my planned escape route. I had a second escape plan should the first route show any unforeseen obstacles, but it was a vague outlining at best. I had enough time to think, but overthinking wasn't my thing. The best plans are those that come 2 seconds before impending death, amidst enemies and shots and screams. When there's no way out and the mind has to react to sudden changes that dealt you new cards instantly. That's how survival works. Luck and quick wits, not only skill. I've seen the captain getting hit by a cannonball with the new drummer boy survive the bloody battle unharmed. That's fate. That's God's will. I spit in the dirt as I felt bitterness taint my vigilance. If God's will was the ransacking of our homes and the triumph of these blue devils, then he ain't my God. Then I would rather ride with the devil. It was after sundown when the first soldier stumbled out into the night. I waited until he had rounded a corner and followed. He was too drunk to notice my silent steps, probably to notice anything. I didn't have to hit him, I just pushed him against the wall and held my knife to his throat. "Did you serve on a Sherman?" I asked, not giving him time to think about fighting back. "What?" The man only asked in bewilderment. It was dark and he probably didn't see my grey head, the last remnant of what I once was. "The goddamn devil Sherman coming through Tennessee and Carolina. You was with them? Yes or no?" I was ready to burst as the memories cooked to the surface despite my will. "I was with Sheridan." I could feel the man grin. He seemed to have put things together. "Shenandoah," I uttered. I had seen the once green valley on my aimless roaming. "Burned to a crisp, we did," he boasted with his thick tongue. "What about the mothers?" "What about them?" He spoke with feigned ignorance. He was stalling so his friends would wonder and come looking. "I ain't been born yesterday, boy. You don't answer, I'll find another." My threat seemed to have an effect because the soldier suddenly talked. Lieutenant Baxter served under Sherman, black hair, blue eyes. I drove my knife right into his heart to give him a quick ending. I didn't turn away until I felt the life gone from the shell. I let him slide down the wall and shot into the air. I shot a second time while returning to the bar. The bluebellies were just filing out through the doors. 2 of them at least had their pants full. I could see it by the tenseness of their shoulders against the warm glow from behind. The moon spent a little light, just enough to show their figures. One of them was walking upright and confident, his pistol already drawn, glinting in the pale shine of the moon. I was sure that he was Baxter. My guts were never wrong. I had 2 pistols on my hips, enough for 5 men. No, 4. My old rifle was with Ray. I didn't need it for such quarrels. I took my pistols and shot into the group that listened for any signs of me. One I hit into the chest. He fell and remained still. The other fell but kept struggling. One ran, but I was quicker. Coming closer, I shot the coward in the back. I couldn't help but feel thrilled. Baxter had disappeared. He was good, I could tell. The other man that was still standing shot into my direction, but they weren't used to being ambushed nor fighting in the dark, and his bullets whistled past me or hit the wood. Just to be safe, I shot both pistols at him, jumping out of my cover. Fire ceased. Another peek from my spot showed 3 men lying on the ground. One of them was coughing and groaning. "Come out, Baxter," I called through the night, the rush of killing still in my veins. "Don't be a coward, you Yankee." The insult worked, beckoning the other man to answer. "Say's the bushwhacker." There he was, to my left, somewhere in the shadows. I went into an alley and around the backside of the houses. The bluebelly must have had the same in mind, for I heard footfalls move away from me. "I ain't there no more, Baxter," I called after the movement in the shadows. I had to be careful. If he pinpointed me faster than I did him, I would be a dead man. I kept still, very still, pressed to the wall. I listened for feet. He was good, but he was restless compared to me. He had heard me and he wanted to find me. Only small breaths entered my lungs to silence even that sound. It was confusing to my own ears. I heard a horse whine and snort. Was he using my tactic? Faint steps on wood sounded from in front of me. Slowly I sneaked closer, my own footsteps halfway muffled by the dirt. Right before I reached the corner of the house, a shadow jumped from the veranda. He certainly meant to jump onto me, but being too early by mere seconds, he landed in front of me. He still managed to knock me to the ground, where we scuffled for a moment. I lost my knife, and he his pistol. A hit to the face let me taste blood, and I kicked him into the stomach. Struggling for breath, he got off me from the blow of my knee. I hurried to my knife on all fours. Feeling the steel, I jumped up. Baxter had gotten up as well, but he was panting. I won't lie, I was as ferocious as a wild animal. Taking him by his hair, I dragged him into the moonlight. I couldn't see his eyes, even if I felt the piercing stare, but the hair seemed black. "Lieutenant, I take it," I muttered while holding the knife to his throat. My hand still firmly in his hair made him wince slightly. "And with whom do I have the honor?" "One of those whose houses you burned." "Tennessee or Carolina?" the other man asked with glee at the realization. His defiance let my mind flash back to the end of the war, when many of us had turned into mere beasts. The coming surrender, the knowledge of starvation and reprisals from the Union, it was enough to turn a man into a monster, concerned with only his own well-being. Back then I had fought against such outrages amongst my own men. I had a family at home. I owed them to behave like a man. Now I understand them. War doesn't let go of you. Often enough, when a Federal had been captured in those last lawless days, the soldiers took it upon themselves to wield justice. They would pay the Yankees tenfold for what the Union had done to their homes and captured comrades. Federals might be hanged or shot, which was the quickest end. Others would be gutted or dismembered, fighting for life while hoping for death as the agonizing minutes dragged on. When I saw it, I would put a bullet in their man's head. A favorite amongst a group of soldiers under my command was to slit the throat from one ear to the other. If done right, then it would look like a grotesque smile. Make him smile, they would say as one did the deed. The choking man would fall to his knees as the blood ran like a stream. I once even saw how they threatened to shoot a federal if he wouldn't make his comrade smile. Make him smile, Billy, they encouraged the distressed man again and again. By the time I reached the hidden spot, the Bluebelly had killed his friend. Crying like an infant too he was. I shot him on sight. His wits were gone either way, shattered by the cruelty of his own hands. Oh yes, many Confederates were far from innocent where General Johnston failed to ensure discipline. He was a good and capable man, yet times were chaotic. We didn't surrender peacefully and orderly like Lee's army. This wasn't Appomattox. This was a far different part of the war. The Bluebellies kept hunting us, pushing us to the edge. I'll make you smile, son of a bitch, I chuckled madly in a low voice. Baxter seemed to notice. I might have imagined it, but he seemed to shudder. Still having him by his hair, I dragged him to the next wall, where I could still see his face. The expression was grim, although the skin was pale. He didn't beg, he didn't cry. I forced him to his knees, guiding the head backward. I kneeled down with him to be at the same height with his head. He only stared at the dark sky as I slid the blade skillfully across his throat. He flinched, but I forced him to remain still. His hands tried to stop the bleeding, but I pushed them away until they grew too weak. My mind showed me memories of blood gushing forth from a dying man's wound. Many I had seen die from blood loss or ripped apart intestines, but I wanted to watch how his life fled, even if it sent my broken mind back in time. For all I knew, he could have killed them and set the house ablaze. It gave me a certain degree of satisfaction to see the body twitch and shiver as the blood kept coming. I saw how the eyes gradually lost their shine. "How do it feel now, Billy?" I murmured warmly, like someone whose wits had been blown to bits. I got up and just stood there for a moment. The coughing of the one man on the ground had stopped. Silence filled the night. God, it felt good to kill.